Hey folks, this is Colin Richards, and I'm glad to be with you today here on Lord and Richards Radio. You know, we are talking to people just like you every single day who are worried that events spiraling out of control in our world, like wars and inflation and market declines, are going to damage or harm your retirement. And so what we do here at Lord and Richards is we make sure that we help you build a plan to achieve financial independence. That means doing what you love with the people that you love for all the reasons that you love. And we do that so you can retire without worry or stay retired without worry. And the reason we want you to be financially independent is so you can take the bountiful resources that God has entrusted to you and do amazing things for His glory and His kingdom. For this segment today, we're going to be talking about a principle we find in the book of Proverbs, chapter 22 and verse 7. The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. And then that's followed up in a few verses in verse 26 and 27 of the same chapter. Be not one of those who give pledges, who put up security for debts. If you have nothing with which to pay, why should your bed be taken from under you? So a couple of very powerful lessons from Solomon about debt. So let's start with that first verse. Proverbs 22:7, we learn that it is better to be a lender than a borrower, right? To receive interest rather than to pay it. But what the writer of this proverb is getting at really has to do with the servitude, what he calls being a slave of the lender. So a borrower is enslaved by their debt. The lender may actually require them to do things they don't want to do, the borrower does not want to do. For example, I'll give you one example. In business, you may borrow some money to get a business off the ground, and then you find that that bank or that lender wants to make you do certain things. They want you to meet certain financial criteria. They may limit how you can conduct your business. They may place constraints on your ability to grow and to be agile. That's just one example of many. In the subsequent verses 26 and 27, we learn that the risk of borrowing is greater than its reward. The risk is greater than the reward. For example, you might be tempted to borrow on an object, some item, when you don't have the money to pay up front. It's only natural that you begin thinking of ways, how can I acquire this? Whatever it is. But the risk that you can no longer make the payments and then lose the item is there. And even riskier is if you've been paying usury, high rates, such as credit cards and so forth. There, the risk is not just of losing the item, but of losing more money to high interest rates. So what we should be striving to do is to save up money and then pay as we go. Wait, we call it deferred gratification. Comes by many titles. Living within our means, right? Developing a budget, starting first with the key principle of giving to others, saving, right? Making sure you set aside money in each paycheck for the future. Then your normal expenditures, then the offerings, the special things that you might want to do for God, and then those luxuries come absolutely last. The problem here in America is we tend to put luxuries first, right? We tend to make that the first priority and then bend everything around it. And for this reason, a lot of times I see believers who are not giving regularly to the Lord or to the poor. Now, there is one exception that I'd like to highlight, and we make it kind of a principle here at Lord and Richards that real estate, I'm talking here about your home, is an exception. The cost of modern real estate can make buying a home with cash impossible. You say, well, if I'm going to follow this principle, then I'm just going to rent, right? I'm going to rent. Well, you're the slave to the person who is renting, the landlord. And often the cost of renting or leasing can exceed the cost of purchasing on a monthly payment basis. And here's the problem. This makes absolute sense because the landlord is borrowing typically and making payments, and they need to make more for both maintenance of the property as well as their own profit so that it's a profitable venture for them. And so here's what we suggest when possible. And by the way, only at favorable rates, a mortgage may be a better solution than renting. First of all, the threat of losing the home is no greater with owning than renting. The payments when you own, or in other words, you have a mortgage, are more consistent and predictable. Most often, people get fixed notes. We don't want to get adjustable rate notes. We want to get fixed notes. And then the only thing that goes up are your taxes and insurance, which we can't avoid. Rent payments, by contrast, can go up dramatically, and they don't necessarily follow the low, reasonable increases of taxes and insurance. They can respond to the market. Maybe the rental market goes up and people are able to get more for that property than when you started. So beware of purchasing in today's market conditions. That's so important. I'm going to talk about this in a separate segment because I'm seeing a lot of people make some bad decisions right now buying while the market is high. You know the deal. Buy low, sell high, not buy high, sell low. But for some reason, we tend to check that principle at the door when it comes to buying a home. Now, one other exception, of course, is the use of capital to earn money through the sale of real estate. So a lot of times folks will invest in real estate and borrow to invest. While I still think it's better to buy cash, if we're not talking here about your primary home, I also see investment real estate as a potential area to appreciate capital. Okay? But the idea there isn't that somebody's going to take your bed out from under you. The verses say, "Be not one of those who gives pledges, who puts up security for debts. If you have nothing with which to pay, why should your bed be taken from under you?" So why are we talking about this? Well, I'm talking to people every day just like you, and we're helping you build a comprehensive financial plan that touches every area of your financial life, as well as your goals, priorities, and dreams in retirement. And so what we need to do is sit down and have a conversation about those goals and dreams. And folks who meet with us discover that in the process, wow, I can know whether or not I'm really ready to retire. Or if I'm already retired, I can know that I have the resources that it takes to make it. I'd love to chat with you. I'd love to visit with you together with my team, an outstanding group of advisors here at Lord & Richards, helping people all over the country. It's just as simple as having a little conversation on the phone.